Well, today is mid-October, or just about there, and unfortunately it's time for all the tomato plants to come out of the garden. I've picked quite a few of the tomatoes that were ripening, and I've brought them into the house. Wanted to try another method that one of my friends had also told me about to ripen them, and that is to pull them out of the ground and hang them somewhere. You can hang them outside as well in some sort of covered area. So I wanted to go ahead and try that today because this weekend we're supposed to be getting a lot of rain and calling for some thunderstorms. And for anyone who's been growing any tomatoes, you probably know as well that any tomatoes that are currently green and ready to ripen, like some of these really large ones here, a lot of rain can cause them to split. So in hopes of being able to ripen up and harvest a little bit more of the green tomatoes that I have here, I'm gonna go ahead and try this other method because I am running out of table space on what I can dedicate to trying to ripen tomatoes in the house. The tomatoes have stayed in as long as they have because the last week or two we were getting some really nice fall temperatures still, between like the upper 60s to mid 70s. And I was getting some slowly ripening out of the garden, but I'm hoping here that we can actually get the majority of what's left out here ripened up to have for processing.
California, it's my name and where I live. California, where they don't forgive you and they warn you. Don't you ever lose that smile, or we'll throw you to the devil for a while. California, with her gray and shining sea. When I get there, will my friends remember me? Every morning when I wake up on this earth, every evening when I watch the shadows birth, and every angel who has ever seen me fly will be waiting on that mountain by and by. From the mountain to the gray and shining sea, when I get there, will my friends remember me?
Quite a few of the ones that are left are the San Marzano variety. You can see so many of them haven't ripened up. So I've been very delicate in how I split the vines so that I don't inadvertently make a lot of them come off. And some of them naturally have come off on their own. Those will go in the house to try and ripen up inside. Maybe use some fried green tomatoes from. So this was the majority of the tomatoes that fell when I was pulling the vines off. And then there are some whose vines I didn't care to save. There wasn't enough on them to go through the whole process of hanging them. So this is all the surplus that's either going to be potentially made into some sort of salsa verde, although that's best with tomatillas. Regardless, I'll put them in the house and hope that they can ripen a little bit and do some more fried green tomatoes with some of them until we get tired of eating that. So now I'm just gonna wheel over all of the vines that I'm gonna hang up. I have a space in the shed that we just built that will be a nice dry spot for them, and we'll see how well this works. So this this is just the second half of a shed that we built. The other side is holding our tools because we do not have a garage. Otherwise, that would be a great option for a spot to store your tomatoes for drying in. So this was initially built to be another area to store hay, but the closest horse shelter that I have over here will not be housing horses this winter, so this space is available currently.
Early this morning, you knocked upon my daddy's door. Oh, 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 early this morning, you knocked upon my daddy's door. I said, hello, Satan, I believe it's time to go. He and the devil was walking side by side. He and the devil. Ooh.
So this is a good reason why you save your hay strings, because this space used to be storing some of the border's hay, and every time I opened a new bale, I was just storing the strings. Not for any specific intention, but I'm glad that I did now because I'm using quite a few. So I have 3 rows of tomatoes hanging, and I just wanted to note that I left the majority of all the loose hay that was in here. I'm going to spread it out a little bit more evenly, but the idea with that was that whenever the tomatoes fall, they have somewhere fairly soft to land, and if they do fall and they're ripe and they go splat, then this will be an easier way to clean it up with the hay. So we'll see in the coming days, maybe weeks, how this experiment goes. So this is day 3, and we have one really good one. It's ripened up, and quite a few more. I will say, compared to the ones I brought in the house, there's more ripe out here, and also more strongly ripe than the ones in the house too. So we'll keep on monitoring this. Well, it's October 21st, and I wanted to give you an update on how the tomatoes are looking. We definitely have some ripening, but I will say, comparatively to the ones that I brought in the house, the ones in the house have definitely ripened faster, which is to be expected. The house has a consistent temperature and everything. But I've had some in the house that either must have had a blemish or maybe got overly ripe, because I've had a few in the house that I had to toss out. Just a couple, just a handful. Whereas I haven't seen any out here, and I've only brought in maybe a half a dozen that were ready from in here that I processed in the house. But I haven't noticed any blemishes or any that I had to toss out that were from in here. So I would say this experiment proves that ripening them by hanging in a covered outdoor area is effective, but you can see that there are still quite a few green ones. So I'm going to give it a little while longer to let those other green ones ripen up, but it might come to a point where I just bring them in the house so that they do ripen and not end up going bad. So This is an experiment that I think is worthwhile if you have a lot of unripened tomatoes that you don't want to bring into the house for the bugs or dirt reasons or anything like that, or if you just don't have the space to dedicate to laying them all out. Then hanging them someplace like this is effective, but bringing them in the house does ripen them up quicker, because even now these ones I'm going to harvest here that I'm going to pick is not enough to actually really get anything accomplished with. So as you can see, of the ones that were actually ready in here, there's a few that I've left behind that aren't red enough to pick. There's really only about a half dozen or so. So I'm going to bring these in the house and make some sauce with the ones that are ready in there, because there's enough inside to do a whole batch worth of tomato sauce.